and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you roll call, please?
Sure. Wondergem,
Here.
Highmore,
Here.
Buck, Gardine,
Here.
Palmer, here, DeHaan,
Here.
and Klein.
Here.
Okay, you have the forum.
Thank you so much. Please note, as a courtesy to members of the audience and the Board of Education, please silence your cell phone. The public will only be able to speak during public comment if signed up. Do you have any more public comment forms? All good? Okay, great, thank you. Thank you tonight. Excellent. First item of business is approval agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, the reports agenda. We'll just go right around. All right, we'll start with you.
So mine is, I was sick at the last meeting right after this basketball game, but when we had a board report, but just to say how much I appreciated the United basketball game
Great.
and how that was such an awesome event. One of my nephews, or my cousin's son, played on the Hudsonville team. So it was just, I know firsthand how much of a big deal it was for them to be able to participate in that, and all the parents that got to see their athletes playing out there. So that's all that I've got to say, but that was pretty awesome.
Great. Glad you're feeling better.
I just want to mention a couple things, or inquiry on a couple things. Number one, is there any universal date parents are going to be allowed back in the buildings, Raj?
They are already allowed back in the buildings. There's a transition. We've talked to building principals, and they are transitioning to having parents back for activities.
Okay. All right. And slipped my mind. I'm getting old.
If you
That's all I have.
think of it.
Nope,
back around.
that's fine.
All right. Amy?
I have to say that we talked a little bit earlier about the varsity hockey team going so far. And when they played in Plymouth, they were in the Final Four, and we were all in South Bend, Indiana, at all these hockey tournaments with travel teams, and all of these kids from all of the different schools. So we had Jenison, Hudsonville, Grand Haven, South Haven, and all these little kids that are in travel hockey completely cheering for the Bulldogs. It was just so much fun to watch, and it was fun to experience. It's sad that they didn't win, but it was a great time. It was so much fun. And Parks and Recreation, we have a little bit of a presentation today from the city of Wyoming, and Parks and Recreation is also trying to partner with the city and with the schools with Parks and Recreation, which is its own little entity. It is still technically under the city, but it is definitely, we're trying to figure out how do we make parks work for the city and for the schools so that we can all come together and have some really great opportunities. So that's what we're working on.
Barb?
I just want to thank all of our athletes and those who've been competing lately. I think, they go out and represent Grandville, and I think they do a very nice job in their sportsmanship and competition, whether it be band or whether it be basketball. But I think, again, our students, as I've seen, just seem to carry themselves well and compete like true athletes. That's it.
Yeah, so a couple things, congratulations again to the hockey team. That was awesome to see their run. Obviously, it fell a little short, but still they had a great season, so that was really cool. The basketball program obviously had a nice run too, and I don't know if anybody caught it. There's the NHFS, that system. I mean, it was awesome. It was a lifesaver for me, so I could actually see some of the games because I was running around from here to there doing things, and I was able to watch it either on my phone or at home. So that was cool, but probably one of the best dunks I've ever seen in a high school game. That was phenomenal at the end. I think it was the Jenison game, right? Yeah, that was phenomenal. And then the music had their festival. I can't remember if that was. Yeah, it's been one of the last one. All A ratings all around, which is great, or Division I ratings, or whatever it was called. So that was really cool to see for the bands. And then the Hall of Fame dinner. The athletic boosters put on a Hall of Fame dinner. So congratulations to Brent. His son won one of the scholarships for that. So that's
Thank you
awesome.
for help organize it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean,
Was it well attended?
it was pretty well attended. I think we had 120, 130. So it was great. I thought the speakers did a nice job. They all did something special. Raj, I appreciate, you stepping up and just saying a few words too. That was great. But that was really fun, and we hope to continue to grow that bigger and bigger every year, and be our main fundraiser for raising funds for the different athletic programs at Grandville.
So they used to do a car thing.
Yeah.
Is this replacing that? Do
Yeah.
you see? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
The car thing was fun.
And then it just kind of related. I had an opportunity, gosh, it's about a month or so ago now, where there's been an announcement that Premier Athletic Center is going to be closing. And the owners of the facility have decided that they can make more money right now with it as a rental, making rentals out of it, than they can with keeping it as a workout facility and tennis facility. So, hey, Sarah's private enterprise, get it, right? It's just kind of a unique situation where that's something that Grandville is known as. And the kids, when they heard the news, that are in what they call the CTT program, which is competitive tennis training program, they all got organized and said, we want to go and speak at the Grandville City Council Commission or meeting. And just a huge group of them went. And it was really cool to see the kids engaging and making their voices heard. And there was a lot of kids from Grandville that attended that and went to that meeting. So it was really cool to see.
They gave public comment?
They went up and they spoke.
Yes.
Yep. Mayor Moss was a little bit, hey, all right, okay, this is the 10th person saying the same thing. So if anyone else got something different to say, please let me know. He's like, we got other business to do. But it was really good to see the kids get out and speak and make their voices heard. So I think that was really cool. So kudos to all those kids that went for that. So that's all I have.
Wonderful. First, I want to say thank you for taking care of things last meeting. I got called out of state the last minute for work, but it was fruitful because I go out of state to work with other districts and plan, and it just reminds me how far ahead of the curve we are in so many places and situations, especially one-to-one technology where I'm working with schools that are just starting. I'm thinking back, we started in 2016. So that made all the difference this year and in the last 2 years in having these changes. So it's just a good reminder when we get out and see all those. Also went to McCall this week, which is the Michigan Association of Computer Users and Learning. Fantastic conference. By the way, board members, for every teacher signed up and administrators, a free board member gets to go and a free administrator. It's definitely worth going if you can plan for next year. It's in Detroit. But it's an excellent opportunity to see best practices with technology and learning and across the board. It's not all about computers, it's about kids and about STEM education and about the trades, and there's just a lot of really great, they bring students in and they show all the things that they've done with 3D printing and modeling and robots in our county. It's just a lot of great things going on, so it's really amazing. One of the cool things I got to see recently was students who made out at the Career Tech Center. They made 3D printed models of, they did it actually at the Aviation Academy, 3D printed models for prosthetics to help a young man who wanted to play hockey but had a limb difference. So they made an attachment to his hockey stick so he can also participate in hockey, which is really cool to see. But these are coming out of the minds of our students. Which also brings me to my next thing. Just that time of year, students are starting to commit to their future. Our seniors and our juniors are doing that, and I'm seeing parents make proud posts, and it's just a great thing to see all the hard work of the community, the parents, and the educators, and all the support staff in our district coming to a final goodbye for students as they're committing to the trades and they're committing to colleges and to the military and to other pursuits as well. So fun seeing that. Fridays, I've been trying to make it a point to pop into elementary schools early in the morning, working my way up the ladder to middle and secondary. It's been fun. Just pop in, drop them off some donuts, see what's going on. Last Friday, I stopped in and they were I came in, I kind of felt foolish because I didn't check their calendar ahead of time. Central was doing donuts with grown-ups, and I came in with donuts. I was like, okay, I guess I fit the theme, but they had plenty of donuts already. But that was the great thing is I got there and their parking lot was packed, the gymnasium was packed, and I also appreciated the way they positioned the event, because not every student has the availability to a particular adult, and so saying grown-up, you can bring whomever is special and available to you to come to this event to honor what you're doing at school is really cool. So kudos to our schools for holding those events and getting parents in and other family members and friends who are meaningful mentors in students' lives. I really appreciate that. So I got to see that in action this week. It was really cool. That is all for me. On you.
Okay, and under my report, Century Park is here, Mrs. Burns and crew, and they're going to present to us some great things that are happening in Century Park Elementary.
Putting up our 2 slides, keep us on topic.
Okay.
Roger told me I had like an hour and a
Hey,
half.
I had 3 things to say. I had 3 things to say, and I still had to write it down.
An hour and a half.
Yes.
No. Oh, Heather, come here.
Thank you. Oh, there's a bingo.
So for those of you who don't know, I'm Mrs. Burns, this is Mrs. Eckhurst. I came from outside the district, but Mrs. Eckhurst has been at Century Park for
20-some years.
20-some years. I wanted her to answer that, but I didn't, I think I might know, but I won't say it. So, up here. So at Century Park, we've had a lot of things going on, so instead of just doing one thing, I wanted to show you our March Madness. It's all great March Madness for us. So if you go to the first part of it, next should be just an arrow. Yeah. So with most of the elementary schools, we have March is Reading Month, so we had a theme chosen by our committee of Read for the Gold. Most of our activities, there was 20 activities they would do at home with their parents or a senior citizen or at the library. So most of the things that they were doing involved family at home and not necessarily things they just did in the school, which a lot of the kids really enjoyed because they're sharing books with people that maybe they haven't in a long time. And getting out to the library to make sure they have their library card and they're trying new books and those types of things. So depending on the number of activities the students do, they can receive a gold, silver, or bronze medal and some bookmarks and pencils and things like that. So we have on here a couple pictures. Those are our first set of winners. This goes until the end of the month. So these students have already won their gold medals, and we make sure that we call them down each day to honor them and take a picture. You can kind of see what they get. So they have a sticker and just some motivational things so they can show off to their friends that they have their gold medal. They seem to be really having a great time with it. Part of this is that we do have special guest readers, and I don't know, Ms. Ackers, do you want to share a little bit about our guest readers?
Yeah, can we click on the link and see if that
Yeah.
works? So we're spotlighting students who want to volunteer, parents, kids who want to volunteer to read, and we're doing short little video clips every day, every week of those guest readers, and then post them so that teachers can share with their classrooms too. So we're trying to find kids in our building who have special talents that are interesting and would like to share, and they pick books that kind of match their talents. So we have a student who's a competitive wrestler, and he picked, what did he do before? The dino wrestling was what he had to add little special effects in there. But everybody kind of came with their own pieces, and it made it a little bit more special. So the kids are really enjoying getting to see olders and youngers reading aloud, and old teachers that they haven't seen in a while.
And I think Mrs. America is going to be.
Yeah, we scored Mrs. America.
Woohoo! Yes, yes. So,
Yes, I can get away and I'll be there.
oh yeah,
I'll take them.
yeah. We can do them over Google Meet. We can tape you if you'd like to read the books. Just to read it. Yes, yes. So that's been nice though because it's a variety of choices for the kid or for the parents or not parents, the teachers to choose books that are from maybe a teacher or another student that's older or younger. So this seems to be working really well for us.
Justin, can you click back?
Oh, no. I think Heather has it. So there's daily reading fun. So I'll let you go to the next slide. We also have a calendar of events. Tomorrow is Pajama Day, so that's exciting. And lots of fun activities throughout the month for the students. At the end of the month, we are going to have a reading celebration where we're going to drop everything and read with some finger light devices, I don't know what you want to call them. And then we're also having a glow stick dance party for our positive behavior celebration. So, something that was for the teachers that we have going on this month is we have Bulldog Bingo. March is usually a pretty long month for staff, so we have a board and it has things like I ate a healthy lunch, I went to bed early, I gave a positive comment to another class, I left a sticky note with a positive note for a student on their desk, and they can earn, I think, up to 12 bingos this month. So far we have all of the bingo winners, and the kids are starting to push their teachers because we announced at the end of the day who's the bingo winners. But in our staff lounge, then the teachers sign the sheets too to show like what they were doing. They could see which of those things other teachers did. It's kind of fun. I usually will call down a student that I know maybe had that teacher or somebody that they wouldn't know would be coming down. So then, of course, like they get started to say, "You're not in trouble." And so I say, and I'm like, "I need you to do me a favor and take this bingo prize." So that is for the staff. It's been going really well, and it just makes the days before spring break a lot of fun. So that was our goal with that. So. Today, you'll notice our shirts was World Down Syndrome Day. So our staff, special ed department put this together, and they arranged for some t-shirts to be made. But we celebrated with mismatched socks today, due to the scientific side of things. We also had, trying to think of what else we did. It was a long day. We just celebrated with the kids, and really it was about being inclusive of all. So today we did that celebration, which was pretty cool. And you can see some of our mismatched socks. Do you still have yours on? Yes. I took mine off. They were over my pants up to my knees, so it was like, it's a little warm out. So we did spend the day celebrating our students in our building today. And then this week, my YouTube video didn't show up. I know. Well, if you Google CPLC lip sync, you're going to see it. We had lip sync last Friday. It was a packed house at the auditorium. It was a lot of fun. I didn't know what I was getting myself into being new. But I had Ms. Ackers to show me the way and to fluff my hair up like I was from the 80s.
So much hairspray, it was outrageous.
Yes. So that was a great night, though, and it really was a good event to be able to. I know you're asking about getting parents back in buildings, but really it was kind of like the coming out party for CPLC. We went in and we had a great time with kids and families, and so it's just been a very busy month, but it's been a good month, and we still have a few things that we're working on the rest of the month. But I just wanted to highlight some of a few things. So.
Design too.
Yeah, so that was one of our students designed it, and something that we didn't add in there. I don't know, you want to talk about the young lady?
Yes, we're really blessed. One of our students, one of our fantastic spellers, is going to compete in the Greater Grand Rapids Spelling Bee tomorrow.
Wow.
Tomorrow?
Yes, and that's who designed. She actually designed the logo. She was the winning logo. We had the students vote, and she's in the spelling bee, and she was an act in a lip sync.
Wow.
So she's an all around.
She's had a big
Triple threat.
She's phenomenal. So yeah, but lots of great things happening at CP.
That eye is a microphone, isn't it?
She's wonderful.
Yeah, nice detail.
Questions? Well, if you have any questions, that's.
I'd love to see your events, your calendar of fun things. If you have an extra, I'd love to take a look at that.
I can send it over, Roger. If I send it to you.
Yeah.
can you?
Yeah, thanks.
I'll email it to you.
How's your first year so far?
It's been really fast. I think there was a lot of other not normal activities with COVID and just maybe some maintenance issues and
Sewer pipe.
We had a-
sewer pipe.
Stinky wall.
Stinky.
It was a very eventful January, but we managed to make it through there. But yeah, it's been great. Staff's great, and lip sync made me feel, as a good group of people and a new family here. So
Nice.
yeah, it's been a great year.
So glad you're still doing the lip sync. I don't know if other schools are, but my kids went to Century Park, and we just love that time of year. It was
Yeah.
fun.
I'll
Really
send the
good
link
time.
to the video too. It was the
Okay.
6th grade group. I think they had 30 kids.
Wow.
And they choreographed this whole number, and it was just spectacular. But that link was on there, I'm not sure. Must be a filter issue. I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
Similar question for you, Ellen.
Oh.
I know you've been there for a long time, but
Yeah.
in this role, how is the transition for you?
That's been one of the biggest challenges this year because we kind of had a whole new office staff going on at Century Park. because we lost our main secretary as well. So, very well, thank you.
Good.
It's been an adjustment going and learning a second building, but great staff, great children, so they've made it so
Good.
easy.
Well, thank you for everything you do and also for doing things for your staff too,
Yeah.
to see them smiling and enjoying their jobs during a time that has been difficult. We appreciate you keeping the morale high and keeping the students learning at the same time, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Oh, I have one more question.
Oh,
May I come read next week?
Oh, absolutely.
Email me.
you're always welcome.
Okay.
Stop on in.
Okay.
Door's always open.
All right.
Just don't show up on Friday next week.
All right.
Deal.
Deal. I will not eat.
I'm not even there. Just saying.
Any other questions?
That's awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, we don't have any old business. Consent action agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support?
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to the regular action agenda. First item is the 2013 bond refunding Ford purchase Series 1. Try to get the first of the two. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the attached resolution which authorizes the issuance of the forward delivery of the 2023 refunding bonds for the purpose of refunding the 2013 Series 1 of bonds approved by the voters of Grandville Public Schools on May 7th, 2013, not to exceed the sum of $10,500,000. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Sure. So some very exciting news. I'll turn things over to Heather and she'll give you a summary.
Sure. So, you'll remember probably a month or so ago, came to you with a resolution to go ahead and move forward with essentially refunding the 2013 Series 1 bond issue. So pleased to announce that we had our pricing last week, Wednesday, and it went well. We were able to settle with an overall interest rate of 3.35%, which is saving the taxpayers an estimated $730,000 and will be a $1.6 million reduction in debt service. So these are a little bit different. Tonight you would approve the resolution to continue to move forward, but we actually won't close on these bonds until February of 2023. Take any questions?
Yep, I got one, at
Okay.
least one.
Okay.
So with the way our economy is going, I would think bonds wouldn't be as attractive.
Sorry.
I
Wouldn't be
will-
as attractive.
That wouldn't be bonds, wouldn't be not as attractive.
So, yes, it is starting to head that way. We were able to get this and the next action item on the agenda in before the Fed raised their rates. They did raise it 25 basis points later that afternoon, but we were in time and got locked in
Okay.
for that. So,
All right.
cool.
Always
Good
ahead.
there.
Go ahead.
Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? All
Just
right.
that Heather's amazing.
Yeah, that is so true. Do a roll call.
Okay. Ivor,
Yes.
Gardine,
Yes.
Kahan,
Yes.
Palmer, yes. Wondergen,
Yes.
Klein.
Yes. The motion passes.
Yeah.
Next item. Get the specs on here. It is recommended the Board of Education ratify the disbursements and board, wait, I'm reading the wrong one. I thought I was all prepped. I had them all set out. Thank you, appreciate it. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the attached resolution which authorizes the issuance of the second series of bonds approved by the voters of Grandville Public Schools on November 5th, 2019, not to exceed the sum of $32,660,000.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Okay, so again,
It just happened so quick.
same day, same time, same place. We had Series 2 price. Just a reminder, Series 1 was priced January 21 of 2020 and then subsequently sold. And I did put in here so you can kind of see the difference between what rates we're doing in 2020 versus 2022. So back in 2020, we had a 2.49% overall interest rate. saving an estimated 13 million. Now, when we jump down to Series 2, it's not the same dollar amount, so there will be less savings because of that. But our interest rate we did settle at a 3.04%. You can see in 2020, we received orders 5 times greater than the amount of bonds available. And last week, we received orders 3 times greater. Still really good showing. So a little bit higher on the interest rate, saving the taxpayers an estimated 7.1. Yeah, so these bonds will go to pay for the remainder of the work at the 7-8 building and the remodel of the current middle school to our 5-6 building. Those are the 2 very large projects that we'll use those funds for.
Heather, did we do this deal on the same day?
We did. Yep.
So we were still fortunate where our timing worked out well.
Yes.
Very
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
Very nice, thank you.
So, yep, 10 a.m. It's really cool. If you ever want, the next time we go to Price, you can come in and see the link, but it's really cool. So you have the different series of bonds that they're going to issue, and you see the orders come in. And it's not just corporations. They don't give us individuals' names, of course, but it just says individual purchase. And it's a really cool experience.
So are bonds part of a package then? So it's like, okay, here's a package worth $200 million, and here's who's in it. I'm giving you a number.
that would be really high for us, but yes, in terms of 200 million, but yeah, they'd be broken down by so many millions.
And how does our rating affect what we get from bids?
So the higher the rating, the better, the more people will want to invest in your bonds. The district is rated an A1. You have that rating prior to pricing so that those that are interested know what you're rated, and there's really 3 things that drive that. The 2 that we have control over, one is that we're in a bond market in Michigan, and that doesn't bode well for our favor, okay? It's just the way they look at Michigan school districts. It's not just Grandville, it's all school districts in the state of Michigan. So we have no control over that, and the fact that the retirement liability is so high. But the other 2 factors that they look at are consistent enrollment or increasing enrollment, and then fund balance percentage. So they'd like to see you around 15%, which, I brought that fund balance policy. You guys adopted that some time ago, and that is always one of our goals is to get there. Right now, I think we're around 11.5. But that would also be a factor in increasing our rating.
Got it, thanks.
And we go through a lot, we go through the numbers with them. They ask a lot of questions from us, but I think you can see from the number of people who purchase the bonds that we are held in very high regard, even in a market that
Is questionable at times. Got it, in some of the factors. Yep, I did that. I asked those questions specifically for the other board members that may not know, and for the audience, since we have a significantly large audience. Nice job, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
I know I did put in there if we could take a 5-minute recess, but if I can just meet with Kim and Barb after, we can just keep going if you'd like.
You gotta take a vote, yeah.
What's that?
You gotta take a vote real quick.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, afterwards is good.
If we can just do it afterwards, I guess is what I was saying, if you're not in a hurry to leave. Not that you would be.
Here no matter what.
Call?
Roll call, please.
Okay. Gardine,
Yes.
DeHaan,
Yes.
Palmer, yes. Wonderjim,
Yes.
Hybor,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
motion carries.
Carries. Wonderful. All right, we're on to the discussion section. We have a couple of things.
Yes. So with us tonight, John McCarter. He's the Deputy City Manager of Wyoming. He's going to talk to us a little bit, provide some information about public safety and parks in Wyoming.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is John McCarter. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm here on behalf of Mayor Pohl, who is running our council meeting. Otherwise, he would be here right now. But want to first say thank you all for your service and for everyone here tonight. I live in Delmar, so I'm a Grandville resident, or Grandville Public School resident as well. I have a future bulldog at home and another one on the way. So it's just great to see all you guys. Your strategic plan on the wall, your awesome bond sales. It's just very cool. So anyways, I'll get to the presentation. So in May, on May 3rd, we have 2 ballot proposals that are on for Wyoming voters to decide on that will really shape the future of the city of Wyoming. Looking at the second slide here, it's always helpful to me to start with the why. We really have 3 goals set forward that these 2 proposals together accomplish. The first one is funding for police, fire, and parks. In a nutshell, we're looking for $6 million. We'll get into some of the needs on the next slide, but we believe that this income tax, coupled with the millage reduction, will put us in a position that we can fund these services in perpetuity for the next 15, 20 years. Goal number 2, make the city more financially sustainable by diversifying our revenue sources. I think you all know how difficult funding can be. We're a lot different at the municipal level than you guys are at the schools, but we rely primarily on funding from the state, which is consistently underfunded. Again, I don't need to tell you guys that. And property taxes, which are limited in growth year over year. Those make it challenging for us as wages increase, as inflation occurs, to keep up, and we have to cut services as a result. And then third, minimize the burden on Wyoming residents and businesses. The income tax, which we'll get into in just a minute, would be assessed on both residents and non-residents who work in the community. Right now, it's really property owners who bear that burden, and we'll go over a little bit more of the cost for each. If we could scroll down just a smidge there. So looking at those critical needs, this is a really important slide because it goes into a little bit more detail about the why. Looking at our fire department, it's a pretty short story. We are drastically underfunded. We have 27 full-time firefighters with the city of Wyoming. We're a city of 78,000 people. It's not enough. When you look to our neighbors, Kentwood, they have 25,000 fewer residents, and they have 15 more firefighters than we do. We struggle just responding to our own calls. We rely on the city of Grandville. We rely on the city of Kentwood, the city of Grand Rapids to help us with calls in our city because we just don't have the people to handle it. On the police side, it's about being more proactive. Right now, our officers are responding call to call to call. They're not doing enough traffic enforcement. 28th Street is very dangerous. Part of that is because we don't have enough people to just put them out there and say pull people over who are speeding. We do data-driven decision-making, but not enough. And this would fund a dedicated position to help us use data to be more proactive in how we address crime in our community. And then third, parks. One of our most valuable assets in the community. We have a dedicated millage that was passed in 1994 and has not changed since. That was a citizen-led initiative in 94 when that was passed, which is awesome. But we've gotten to the point where that's all operations. We don't have enough money for capital. We've adjusted our library millage so we can kind of raid that to cover some needs initially, but you can only rob Peter to pay Paul so much. So this would be included in this as well. So what's on the ballot? The first question would allow the city to levy an income tax of up to 1% on residents and businesses and up to 0.5% of non-residents who work in the city of Wyoming. According to our projections that were done by a consultant for us, we would levy 0.4 on non-residents and 0.8 on residents. So we wouldn't do the full 1% and 0.5%. Again, that's a projection and could change, but that 1% and 0.5% is the ceiling. And to go above that would require a change in state law that just would not happen. So that's our max. And then second, we would reduce our millage rate from 11.9% to 5 mils. That's more than half, 59% on the city of Wyoming portion. It's important. There's a lot of other tax assessors who are on your tax bill, so it's not a reduction of half on your total tax bill, just the city of Wyoming portion. And then if we scroll down a little further here, kind of the money shot here. So what does this cost me? That's the question we always get. And this example here is based on a household who's earning $60,000 annually combined and lives in a house with a taxable value of $100,000. Taxable value is not the same as market value, so taxable value is roughly half of the market value of your home when you buy it. So if we start, I won't go through all these, and this presentation is online for anyone who would like to access it and see these numbers in person. But for the individual homeowner at that level, it would be a savings of about $226. There's additional deductions for each member of the household. So if you're a household of 4, there's a little more savings. If we move over to the retiree, your retirement income, generally speaking, is not taxable income. So your increase in income tax would be 0, and you'd realize the full savings from that millage drop. As we move over to renters who do not pay the property tax millage directly, there's no savings there, and they would pay that income tax. And then if we move over again to see the retiree example who are renters, really no difference there. And then the individual who works in the city of Wyoming now paying nothing would be paying $232. This is one example. I strongly, strongly encourage anyone watching or up here to go to wyomingmi.gov/income tax calculator, and you can plug in all your own numbers, how much you make in the city of Wyoming, how much you make outside, what your taxable value is, and it will tell you exactly what the impact is on you. These are just meant to be illustrative and help people to get an idea. So just encourage anyone to check that out for themselves. So what do we get if these are approved? We talked about the needs. So what do we get tangible boots on the ground? So in the fire department, it's $3.3 million initial investment. That's 27 additional firefighters. That would double the size of our fire department. That would increase the number of firefighters on each shift. Right now, we do not have enough firefighters on any shift to enter a building safely that is on fire. We have to call for backup when that happens. This would staff all of our fire departments, fire stations 24/7. Right now, 2 of the 4 are not staffed. This would reduce our response times and reduce our reliance on neighboring communities, i.e. Grandville, Kentwood, Grand Rapids, and others. On the police department side, we have 13 additional officers and a crime analyst. That would be the first dedicated position of its kind with the city of Wyoming. This would increase the number of officers on each shift, really more proactive traffic enforcement, neighborhood patrols, and data-driven decision-making. And then on the park side, it's $600,000 annual investment dedicated to capital investment. That's the average spend in our parks capital plan. That goes out 5 years, adopted by city council and reviewed annually. That's how much we anticipate having to spend to keep our parks really at the high level that they're at right now. So to close it out, just to learn more, you can always contact us. We have a dedicated email address. You can email me directly if you'd like, john.mccarter@wyomingmi.gov. We have 2 great websites set up. This presentation, along with the flyers and a lot more information, are at wyomingmi.gov/future. And I mentioned the tax calculator before, but I really encourage you guys, if you're curious how this impacts you, to go check that out. We have 7 dedicated public meetings. I should say 6 because 1 got canceled because of bad weather. But we have another one, our second to last one, coming up this Thursday, the 24th, at City Hall. That'll be broadcast on WKTV as well. And then our last one's April 19th. We have a direct mailer going out to all registered voters later this week, so you'll get that in your mailboxes. And if you have any questions, we're at City Hall. So I can answer any questions now. I know municipal taxes are not the most fun thing in the world, but I'm here for you if you need.
I got a couple questions for you, John. I don't live in Wyoming. With regard to fire, so this is some time ago when Carol was the mayor, so it's been a while. Are all of your fire stations manned today?
No.
So is this going to allow them all to be manned?
Yes. Yeah. Right now, we're really purpose-built for volunteer firefighters. We used to have over 30 in a waiting list. Right now, we have 6. So we'd repurpose. The Vision Station is built expressly for volunteers, and our Burton Station just doesn't have enough capacity. So we'd have to do some renovations at each one using ARPA funds, and then they would be ready to be staffed full-time.
Okay. And then with regard to the park, so the 600,000, that's just for capital. You still would maintain the same level, the budget level, commiserate to whatever the city budget is to staff and do other maintenance activities for the parks, correct?
Great question. If we get into more, if I'm getting too far in the weeds, you let me know. So right now we have 9 dedicated millages. So Parks has its own bucket, and it's a millage, and then all you get is what that generates. With this proposal, we would have 1 millage, and we would have 1 income tax revenue, all into 1 big bucket. So the revenue would grow with the fund as a whole, so it wouldn't be dedicated. It would be 1 general purpose fund that would be allocated out annually. We're not planning to add any staff, but they would probably grow commensurate to where they are now, but it would not be a dedicated Parks bucket, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay,
I
thank you.
actually have a question because I do the I'm the school liaison for the Parks and Recreation Department. And so we've been talking about this. We actually had Ken Crombie come and talk to us a little bit about millages and how that's so helpful. And so this is kind of cool to see that that's being flipped around on its head, and that you have all these 9 different millages, and then we have the, it's really interesting because we've been talking a little bit about this at those meetings and how do we make sure that we can maintain our parks. And we do a lot of crossover. We do police in the park in the summer. We do stuff with the fire department. It's really cool to watch how Grandville does all that. How many parks does Wyoming have?
Oh, I don't know. It's
You
over
probably
21.
have a huge, over 21.
Over
So we have
21
like
parks.
7 dedicated,
Yeah.
right? So you guys have a huge, that's why when you put that number out there, it's like, oh, the things we could do. But I mean, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
So
and we really,
have 21
what we saw
parks.
about 25 years ago was a lot of state funding come in to help us build those parks. And now that bill is coming due, if you will, for the capital expenses, and it's just not in the operations money. And, the dedicated millage is nice to keep it separate, but it's also a limit, so you hit that ceiling too. So it's, again, interesting.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
So you would remove the tax for the parks and just have this overall tax?
Yes.
So everything kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
A couple. We typically don't do that during meetings, it's just board addressing. I have a couple of questions, though. What, when you're looking at fire, I am a Wyoming resident, calling for backup, do we get billed for that?
No,
No, so it's just a courtesy back and forth.
it is, yeah. I mean, how it's called mutual aid. It's an industry standard thing. Nobody's staffed enough to handle like a huge apartment fire or something. It should be 1-to-1, and it's not.
Okay.
And this would fix that.
In looking at the 2 different options, keeping things how they are, where we're primarily based on the high millage for property versus moving to an income tax base, are there any studies on sustainability over long term when you shift from a property model to an income model?
Sure.
Thinking about shifting incomes down the road, property values.
Yeah, so again, if I'm in the weeds, let me know. So the latest 2 to do it was Benton Harbor and East Lansing, and they did it, I think, 3 and 4 years ago. And then it's been like 25 years. So they have not been kind of in business long enough for us to really learn too much. But I think the biggest thing we run into with property taxes is because of the Headley Amendment and Proposition A, which are designed, to limit how much we pay as taxpayers. That limits the revenue to the city. So what's happening is that inflation is not the same as the CPI measurement that the state uses. I mean, we're seeing crazy inflation right now. Income taxes are going to go up 3.3%. I mean, that's just not keeping pace. So what happens is we hit a ceiling within probably 5 years after a millage gets adopted, and then generally you go back out. We haven't been going back out. With the income tax, what happens is it grows in relation to the growth in your income tax base directly. And to a property owner, what that means is that as your income goes up, so do your taxes, and there's no ceiling on that. But if your income goes down, your taxes go down. Now, if you suffer a hardship, forbid that happens, your taxes are still due. Talking to, Grand Rapids and Walker are the 2 local cities that have an income tax. And I at least know in the city of Grand Rapids, we've talked to them, and they said, I don't know how you guys survived the recession. And if you come to one of our public meetings, I got a chart for you that shows you. I mean, it's crazy. It was an 18% reduction in our taxable value over just 3 or 4 years, and it took us until last year to recover that. With the income tax, it comes back much quicker.
How about, it's a good talking points on a micro level, on a macro level for you when, say, the economy tanks and we have people leave the state or leave the community looking for jobs other places. What are you projecting for ways to manage that impact if we lose population and income decreases?
Sure. So yes, because we have more, again, our long presentation does a better job than I'm doing now. But right now, about 65% of our revenue comes from property taxes. That's too much. And if we went with this route, it would be 48% would come from income tax, so we would have kind of a mixed bag. So we wouldn't have all of our eggs in one basket. So if something happened where jobs left, we would take a hit. There's no getting around that. It's a more elastic revenue source, which means that if you lose your job, you're not paying taxes the next day. Whereas with property taxes, it has a little bit of a longer tail. But it also comes back quicker. And we also kind of hedge our bets. It's a little bit like your investments. I mean, I don't know if you have mutual funds and that type of thing. You invest in a number of different things to protect yourself. It's kind of the same principle here.
Diversify and be patient.
Yeah.
One thing, go ahead. I mean, just a comment is people working remote, that if people's normal place of business is in the city of Wyoming, but they have the option to work remote, then like the city of Grand Rapids only collects the percentage of income tax that you work in the city. So if you work remote the whole year, then they don't collect any money.
That's right.
So have you taken that into account?
We have, yeah. I mean, the study was done in 2017, so it was a very different world that we live in right now. But we did an update just this last year to it to kind of update it with those.
Because like our office building in Grand Rapids, where I work, before it would have had over 1,000 people, and now it probably has 20.
Yeah.
Wow. that's-
Don't they still get taxed?
It's fascinating. So it's not based on where where their
Where
location
their
is.
home
No.
base is.
So I turned it
Where
in,
you're
like,
working.
It's where
so
you
for
live.
me personally, I didn't go into the work basically any day last year, so I got 100% of my income tax back. So the city income tax back.
Yeah.
Is that something your employer then noted in their, how do they know you didn't work?
Our employer has to just sign a letter saying that we didn't work there. So that's
Okay.
a new thing that will be
That's something to consider.
be dealt with.
Absolutely.
So John, I got another question for you. I didn't mean to get another one, but when people talk, my brain goes. So it's interesting that with the housing market the way it is, you got a boondoggle going on right now because homes are assessed at a much higher value, I'm going to say, than the real market. I don't need to get into an argument with that. I'm just going to say they're overinflated dramatically and have been for at least the last 5 to 7 years. That's your revenue stream. Why are you trying to change it?
It is and it isn't. So I won't argue with you because I bought a house in Del Mar a year ago and I still have nightmares about what I paid for it.
Good. I'm glad you had nightmares.
But Headley and Prop A are designed to counteract that growth in the new revenue that's coming in. So first of all, the growth in existing homeowner is based on consumer price index, not market value. So my next door neighbor who's lived in his house for a long time pays significantly less than what I'm paying now because I just moved in a year ago. So that cap on individuals, my income, my property tax will never go up as much as the market says it should because I'm limited by Headley and Prop A. And then, Prop A. And then Headley rolls back the tax rate by a certain amount to say you can only earn what you earned last year plus consumer price index. So those gains that we got from a skyrocketing market are actually rolled back. So our general operations millage max is 5%, but after the Headley rollback, it's actually 4.87 cents. I think I'm wrong, but it's less than 5 because they actually rolled the tax rate back to counteract that growth.
But you're still curving upward.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
I have one more question. I'm looking at the graph on renters here,
Yep.
and I'd like to talk a little bit about what that means for the renters. We
Sure.
have a lot of rental properties in the city of Wyoming, plus several more coming into Grandville school districts in particular. Is this a benefit to the landlord but not to the renter? And I'm gonna double down on that. What happens, rents right now are incredibly high. So on top of high rents that we have no control over, additional tax, how do you see that impacting? And I'm thinking especially in particular to our families in poverty in our community.
Sure. So I think from the landlord's perspective, they see a drop in their property tax. I'm not optimistic enough to say that equates to a drop in rent. That's not going to be the case. But renters would pay an additional income tax on top of that and not see the direct drop unless they have a landlord who does that, which I don't see that necessarily happening. But that's true. Now, on the flip side, the alternative to an income tax is a millage, which I would say would get passed on through rent. So they would be paying for it one way or another.
Right. Well, I assume now it's already passed on through the rent, and then on top of that, I don't anticipate.
You've added a new tax
Yes,
It's a
to,
new tax, you're right.
to, not everyone, but a large portion of our renting community is not in a position to pay more money. So that's why I'm wondering if there's any kind of consideration for that or rules around property management with this proposal.
No, I mean, there are deductions, but, you know, it's an additional tax, it is.
Okay. Thank you for answering that question.
Of course.
Thanks, John.
Of course.
Any other ones? Really good job. Thank you.
Every time you talk, I hope they ask as many questions or more than we did.
You guys are the best so far at questions, so.
No tomatoes. All right, we're moving on to our public comment section.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go for it. I forgot all about
Okay.
that.
So
No.
next agenda item, Spring Neola Board update, and I must say, this is the smallest
Yeah.
update I have ever
That's
seen.
why I breezed right
And
past.
there are only 3 policies presented, and they're all revised policies, and they all have to do with EDGAR, Education Department General Administrative Regulations, which Heather knows so well, and spends a lot of time with that. So if you look at the first one, and I've given you some summaries of these, but basically, remember, writing in green is where the change is. They've made an addition there. Anything red is a deletion, and there's very little in each of these, but you can see how they added a little bit of language regarding maintenance of effort and maintenance of equity, which are requirements within the federal programs for EDGAR. So these are here in the grant fund piece, and it just basically reminds us that there are those requirements for maintenance of effort and maintenance of equity, and that they need to be documented and provided at the time of audit of our funded programs. And Heather could speak a little more to that. She knows that we have to keep those records for our audit purposes. So
I'm going to ask a question. So ESSR here, funds are here, right? So with what we got from COVID, is that a grant based on this policy? Okay. All right.
Just to explain a little bit of the difference between maintenance of effort and maintenance of equity. Maintenance of equity is new, and it relates directly to the ESSER grants. And the purpose behind it is, if you remember a couple presentations that I've done, the ESSER funds follow the same formula as Title I.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what we need to do then is to make sure the funds that we put into our lower poverty schools, we don't just go in and cut when the ESSER funds are cut. So there's a standard that we have. Maintenance of effort's a little different, it deals with special education funding. And the formula is slightly different because you don't know how many students in a given year will have a special ed, will qualify for special education services.
Would there be any, I don't know, angst by taking the ESSER funds? Just remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch. We took the ESSER funds, are we now stuck with programs that are going to cost the district money over time because we have to maintain them similar to Title I?
There's a cutoff for the maintaining piece, and it's not forever. So it's 2 years after the ESSER funds are.
Yep, okay, I remember you talked about that, okay.
Yeah, and I still go back to, we've had a lot of discussion, we've sent out surveys and done the additional work too, talking with other groups about how to spend the ESSER funds. And Grandville really started with the social work funding that more prior to COVID. We were starting it in the 1920 school year, because that is the feedback that we had been receiving from building leaders and teachers, et cetera. So I guess what I would say is we're trying to continue the program. We saw value in the program to start before we had the funding.
Got it.
Now we have the funding to expand it and just make sure we don't have a cliff.
Okay. And this policy overall is just making sure we follow federal guidelines into how we're going to manage it and report on it.
And then obviously after our year-end audit.
Got it. Okay.
All right. And you can see the second two policies there, policy 6114, 6325. Again, along the same lines, dealing with Edgar. There are some prohibitions regarding costs incurred for telecommunications video surveillance in there. And also within here is the Davis-Bacon prevailing wage provisions for contracts in excess of $2,000. So those are in here. Remember, this is your first reading, your first go around. We've given you a summary. We ask that you take these home, read through them thoroughly, especially over spring break. And when we come back to our next board meeting, we'll have our second review and eventually adoption. So,
Do I have a question? Do me a favor, will you? Can you briefly explain Davis-Bacon? Because I tried to get this gentleman to my left who deals with this.
I didn't hear about it, but I don't have to deal with it, so I don't know the
Give
details.
me an understanding of it, because prevailing wage it seems to be a cryptic thing. And how do we stay in front of it and not get pricked by an unknown thorn as we're walking down the road that we should have picked up?
First thing is we're not using ESSER funds to cover any construction. Second thing is we have non-qualified, we have non-qualified bonds, so it doesn't apply.
Got it. So if we were part of the state's bond, it would apply. But because we are good stewards, right? Because we are such good stewards and we don't, dump into the pool like most districts in the state, this isn't really affecting us. So I can just keep it in the back of my mind. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
Always, thank you so much. All right. Moving on to the public comment section, we have 5. Ms. Kybor is going to keep track. We have 5 minutes per person speaking. He will interrupt politely with a warning of 1 minute. Please make sure that you are remembering to follow the guidelines that are on the paper on the front about public comment and ramifications of our words and our bylaws on the back in terms of the way we speak with one another. Remember, the person at the podium will come up, state their name, and have their time. And let's not interrupt them, give everyone the respect they deserve so that we may hear them here at the board table. First up will be Michelle Thomas, followed by Shannon Foss.
Michelle Thomas, I live in the district. I'm going to punt a little bit from what I prepared here because as I listened tonight, Roger used the word transitioned for parents, that we're transitioning them back in, and then we talked about how packed the hockey game was, how many kids were there, how packed the Century Park lip sync was. I attended the cheer state finals. It was sold out. There wasn't a single seat. We were packed in there. I went to all of the district basketball games. They were packed. They were filled with parents and students, side by side, mixed in, no masks, and so for sports, it's fine. But when it comes to a parent in the classroom to volunteer, why are we still having to transition this? It doesn't make sense. We're not applying it anywhere else, and the education is suffering. The science behind it makes no sense. When you think about a parent being able to volunteer in their child's classroom, that child has probably been exposed to any germs that that parent might have, and they're bringing it in the classroom anyway. Myself as a sub was hired to attend, let's say, the Halloween party, so the first year after COVID. I was hired to be in the kindergarten classroom. I was assigned to a classroom, and I covered that party with the teacher, playing the games, passing out the snacks, working. I didn't have a child in that classroom, so I brought my own set of germs from my own kids, and I come and go. You're bringing more inside or outside into the classroom than if you were just letting the parents be in the classroom. It just doesn't scientifically make any sense. I know that some of the classrooms or some of the elementary schools are being a little more flexible with volunteers, but some are not. It has to stop. Because at this point, the science doesn't make sense. It just feels like we're being excluded on purpose. And I say I don't even have elementary school students. I'm here fighting for my friends that do. I don't know if you follow Let Them Play Michigan, but it's a group of parents that originally got together when the kids were not being able to participate in athletics. Now that has loosened up, a lot of these parents are still involved in this group, and they are filing lawsuits against their schools and their school boards to be able to come back in as volunteers. Such a waste of districts' money and time and energy for something that they should be allowed to be doing anyway. Just let the parents back in. On a separate, completely unrelated topic, I have a child that's going through driver's training. What a nightmare. There has to be a better way. I know my school offered it. Of course, that was a lot of years ago. I've been putting out questions on Facebook about what companies, who does this, who does that. I've heard that some schools are starting to offer it actually as a class where you pay maybe a $75 class fee and that they actually cover the coursework as a class. I don't know if that's something that could ever be an option. It's between $400 and $500 to pay for driver's training. We are 2 working parents in our household, so to get a child to driver's ed, they also play sports. There is no good way to do this. I would really love it if there could be some research into how to maybe make this part of the curriculum, at least optional, maybe not everybody. If somebody still wants to take it separately in the summer, that could be an option, but what are other schools doing? Because I just feel like there has to be a better way. People are booking a year to a year and a half out. I clearly am behind the game because this is my first high schooler. I didn't know that, and now I'm at a loss. Thirdly, the other thing I'd love to know about, are there blueprints or drawings out there for the middle school somewhere that are accessible for the public to see? Does that live online on the Grandville Facebook page or website? I'd love to see a copy of what the plans look like, if that could be emailed or point me in the right direction as to where to find it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, Shannon Foss, followed by Greg Gabriz. Sorry if I said your name incorrectly.
Hi, Shannon Foss, Granville resident, or Granville School District resident. Had a couple of concerns that came up over the past couple weeks. One being that there's nothing on the school website about makeup work. What if your kid's sick? We've got so many kids that have been out with COVID. Now influenza is going right through the schools. Me personally have had 2 kids out, now back in school. I've got a lot of friends, some employees of Grandville Public Schools that have friends or have kids that have been out. And our kids are coming back after being out for a week so we can protect all the other kids. And they're expected to take tests that they have not had seen the work. They have not been prepared to do this. The teacher has not instructed them, but yet they're coming in and taking these tests. My kid ended up getting a C on a Spanish test that he usually aces because he's disadvantaged not being at school because he's sick. I thought that you got a 1-for-1. You're out a day, you get a day to make it up. This is not happening, and I'd like this to be addressed, and if somebody could let me know how we can address this so it doesn't affect our kids' grades, because we've got kids in honor classes and AP classes that it is affecting their grades, and this is ultimately going to affect their college. So please let me know, Roger, if you can get back with me, let me know how we're going to handle
Shannon, are
that.
you talking high school?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Freshman and 11th grade. I have continued concerns with the possibility or looming DEI position, and it kind of tags on with concerns with some of the readers programs that we have going on. At Century Park, I love how they kind of outlined everything. They showed us what they're reading. We also have been made aware of some of the books that they're reading in other classes. or other schools to our kindergartners and our first grades. My biggest issue is if you listen to the music today, what are our kids listening to? They're listening to sex, they're listening to drugs. Have you ever looked up to find out what watermelon sugar meant? These kids are listening to this, and it's very sexually explicit. So now we have parents that are coming in reading books, The Little Feminist or The Anti-Racist Baby, to our kids. Can we just let them be kids and leave the adult subjects to the adults? As they get older, if parents want to have that introduced, it should be an optional thing for the kids. But the kindergartners and first graders, let them be kids. They don't need that right now. Fauci is again saying that he's expecting another lockdown to come out with this new variant that supposedly is ravaging through the UK right now. And we have seen through the past 2 years that other school districts got it right because they didn't lock down. We have our Catholic schools and Christian schools that did not mask up. They got it right. I would like to make sure that we follow in their footsteps and not what we did. I don't want to harm our kids anymore by masking them or making them do social learning or distance learning unless their parents want that type of venue. Again, this is probably my third or fourth time, but I would like a town hall type meeting to discuss issues openly so we can get answers because we keep bringing questions and more often than not, we don't get answers. So I would like a town hall meeting where we can get together, maybe get to know each other a little bit, find out why we feel we do, and then this might not be so abrasive or feel so abrasive when we're here. Thank you.
Next up, Greg, then followed by Tessa.
My name is Greg Gabriels. I'm a parent of a couple of kids that go to Grandville High School. I just want to express my support for the board. I want to thank you for putting our kids' safety first. And I'll further support measures that, any further measures that you may deem necessary in order to keep our kids safe. That is pretty much all I really wanted to say, that I do appreciate the work that you've done in order to keep our community and our kids as safe as possible during this unpleasantness. So thank you.
Thank you. Tessa.
My name is Tessa Jansma, actually a Wyoming resident, so that was kind of fun. What about Wyoming? All right, so we'll start with the high school. The dress code, once again, it was warm today. I don't know if anybody seen the line of kids and all the tummies that are out. Are we not addressing this? Are tube tops okay for high school students? Maybe I'm not that old, but I couldn't wear a spaghetti strap in high school. And now we got girls with tube tops. And there's teachers clearly walking outside. I could see them with their, radios on and so they can't say they're not seeing it. Everybody did a great job enforcing the masks, right? Can we enforce the dress code? That'd be awesome. Again, I have a 15-year-old son. Just, it'd be great if we didn't have tummies out. Also going to Grandview, I haven't heard back from Ms. McAlpine about a library walkthrough because, again, the choice of books, obviously everyone's not gonna be happy. I'm not looking to nitpick and pick through which ones I like and don't like. I just would like to see an option. What's the option that my kid sees as she goes to library? It's, from my understanding, Ms. McAlpine is pretty firm on keeping parents out. The teachers, it's on absolute need basis. So I would like to know, what is their structure? Do do the teachers have to go through her and get it approved first, or, because from what I'm hearing, she's still terrified of COVID, and that's very concerning, because this, as I called it, the election variant is coming. BA.2, I think, is what the official name is. Deltacron didn't seem to work out, so that's what they're going with. So yeah, Fauci's back out saying that we need to be ready and prepared for these mandates to come back. Dr. Wen, you know, the lady who said about the dangling the carrot with the vaccines, it's awesome. She's also coming out saying about the mandates coming back. Please don't. Please don't. And if that's even in the realm of possibilities that you guys are thinking, maybe like have some statistics on how harmful these masks really were for our children. And the online school, I can tell you, it does not work at all, not even a little bit. We need to see you guys pull through your strength for our children's mental health. I hear very often in here that mental health is top priority. This would be the time to put that at the top. We can't have you create the problem and then be bring the solution to the problem you created. That's not how any of this is gonna work. Yeah, having our kids, you know, graduation, dances, sports, having all that canceled did way more damage than COVID could have ever done to these kids. You know, there is a vaccine out. If anybody's still scared, they can, by all means, go for it. And those that have chose to not live this COVID frenzy, you know, if your kid's sick, call them off. You know, like have the attendance, you know, we can still be flexible with that. But I don't think anybody's sending their kid to school sick anymore. Like, I know I've kept my kids home a few times, even with just the sniffles, because it's like, I don't want to deal with it. Stay home. I think that part we've all learned. So I'm sure we'll talk again about that soon as these mandates roll back in. So yeah, if we could just get the parents back in to the schools. I know they were transitioning, but it's not happening. And it's almost April. Like, school's almost over. Field trips, maybe, something, anything. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the public comment portion of our evening. The next regular board meeting will be here at the Administration Building, Monday, April 18th. We have a break because of spring break, and we hope to see you then.